Welcome to Thought for the Week. My memory isn't as good now as it was, but I still find Remembrance Sunday very, very moving and absolutely right. I can't remember the conflicts of the last century. I was born 8 years after the Second World War finished. But there are nevertheless threads of memory that I want to talk about for a minute that are real for me. My father was born in 1913, the year before the First World War, and as a babe in arms, he probably met, although of course he won't remember it directly, somebody called Hugh McIver, who was billeted in Aldershot in North Hampshire, not far from Alton, where my father was brought up. And apparently this man visited the family. And my father's older sisters, and obviously his parents, remembered him well and must have spoken affectionately of him, quite a character. And likewise, my father then told me a bit about him. He subsequently was awarded the Victoria Cross for his gallantry in the Somme, and then he was tragically killed towards the end of the First World War. Likewise, my mother used to tell the story graphically of the night in February when she was in Swansea, February 1941, during the Blitz, and came out of the shelter in the morning to discover a huge crater, such that the people coming out could only skirt round it by holding their hands sort of ring-a-ring-a-roses fashion and edging around the crater and eventually to safety, and for Mum back to Penclouth, the village she was from. Remembrance is an important word because in both the Jewish tradition and indeed the Christian tradition, there's a strong sense that when we remember particular things, we actually bring them into the present. In the Passover Seder, the Exodus from slavery to freedom is remembered and to a certain extent reenacted, made real and very present. And of course, it's very, very resonant at the moment. Israel having suffered a terrible massacre at the beginning of October, and now responding as a state in ways which we can see very clearly on our televisions. I can begin to understand why the state of Israel is responding as it is, but equally we can see the tragic denouement and the way in which so many people in Gaza are suffering now. In the Christian tradition, we bring into the present, by the goodness of God, the life, the death, and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. We make them real for us each time we celebrate together. So it's not just a harking back to the past, as is sometimes said. It's making the past real and therefore making it also quite challenging. Not only a source of comfort and fond remembrance, but a challenging memory. For the Jewish people, that challenge, I think, is implicit in the words of the Lord to Abraham. I will bless you so that you may be a blessing. Bless other nations. And equally, in the tradition of the prophets in Judaism, you have Micah, and we'll be sharing these words on Remembrance Sunday. They shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. And then again from the Gospel, from the New Testament reading as it is actually on Sunday, Jesus saying, you have heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbour and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. A real challenge, not the language of hate in whatever context it's used, and it's used in many ways at the moment in our society, but actually responsible, loving prayer. And I believe that would be, this year, for all of us, a true act of remembrance.